All right, Pisces, your underlying here is Temperance. You are coming into this with the King of Pentacles. They are showing, wow, the Queen of Pentacles, okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, why? Where you meet in terms of this relationship, you're showing the Ace of Cups. They're showing the Five of Swords. That means later, you're showing the Six of Cups. They're showing the Tower. Okay, I gotcha. And then coming out here, you have the Ten of Pentacles, the Four of Pentacles, and then the Eight of Wands. There may be some communication here as far as what's been going on with this person. And I think that they're trying to get rid of some things that are going to have to do with their past, because I think that you're looking back at them going, yeah, they need to become more independent. So, and it's funny how you guys are meeting each other the same here, whether you're male or female, whether they're male or female, doesn't matter to me. You know, and yeah, some of you may be dealing with an earth sign, or at least somebody that's got earth in their chart somewhere. But Temperance being the overall, I think that this is about being patient here and not being too quick to veer one way or the other. You know, but this is also about maintaining balance. You know, and that may be a delicate thing when it comes to being involved with this person. I do think that with the Queen of Pentacles showing up on their side, I think that they're trying to find a sense of independence where they're not completely dependent on you in order to provide something for them so that this relationship can start. You know what I'm saying? Because you showing the King of Pentacles, this is, you know, you showing that, first of all, you are successful and you could give what you needed to make this relationship work. You know, whether we're talking about money, anything in the physical, right? Anything that's going to help this person get back like on their feet almost. But I think that they're trying to do this on their own. And I think that that's why the Queen of Pentacles is showing up here. Now, moving into the Ace of Cups. Again, we're talking about a new beginning in this relationship, you know, love being like refilled, the cup being refilled here, so to speak. You know, and there's this opportunity to have this new beginning. The problem is that I almost feel like this is something that is outside of you, but I think that they're hesitant in terms of like wanting to take advantage of this because they don't want to leave you feeling like you've been taken advantage of and that they're just moving on. You know, and I have to wonder if we're not talking about somebody here who is in a very difficult relationship that they know that they need to get out of. Now, some of you, you know, may be in a situation with a person who just doesn't understand what you're communicating to them. It's like they take everything the wrong way, which, you know, can be possible. But as far as the Six of Cups here, this could definitely be somebody from your past. There may be, you know, that connection and that history. But I think in terms of you looking back at the past, you may be looking at how, you know, in the past they were having problems with getting independence in the first place. And this is kind of like the same thing again. But we're not talking about a repeating cycle. We're just talking about needing to get over the past and moving on from that. You know, and not being too quick to make a judgment on this person based on whatever was going on in the past. But very clearly it's going to be about, you know, this independence. Now, with the Tower, I think that this is a part of their life that they have been building up, that they realize can't withstand anymore and it needs to come crashing down. And I think that they may be having like some difficulty doing that. But then I also worry about this being about somebody who's making a drastic, sudden change and maybe being a little bit too quick. Because I see you kind of like holding on and hanging out, like, let's just keep things the way that they are because, you know, you want something that's going to be secure and stable. And you're also wanting to keep your own security and stability, even though you may be very much offering this to them and very much wanting to have this relationship. I don't think that you want to get caught up in whatever they're dealing with. But a part of their life is like changing big time here. But with the Eight of Wands, I worry that, you know, they're wanting to move too quickly here. Now, some of them may be ready for this, right? I mean, it just depends on the person that you're dealing with. But I feel like this is more so separate from you. But this is something that isn't new, like you've experienced this with them before. But with the Eight of Wands, we could also be talking about, this kind of communication here. But with the Four of Pentacles, and Temperance, I really think that for you, it's like, I don't know if I really want to give anything to this just yet. You want to make sure that this is going to be something secure and stable, right? And then the World, yeah, they're really trying to get away from something that they just don't feel good about anymore. But they need to, get closure on this issue. That's fine and all that they're wanting to make drastic changes. But the problem is clearly there isn't a sense of independence if there's still someone that's like pinning them down, And I really think that as much as they want to accept this offer, they don't want you to feel like you're being taken advantage of. I don't necessarily think that you're doing anything here to take advantage of them. I don't think that that's it at all. I do think communication between the two of you is strained, but that's really on them. But really looking at this, with the Four of Cups, clearly they're not happy with where they're at. They know that they need to stop investing in it and they need to end that situation. That chapter in their life needs to be over with here before they move on. And that may be why you're kind of like hanging out, but they're not willing to let go of the relationship. And then the Nine of Pentacles, yeah, you don't want to have anything to do with it. I really think that this is about you maintaining your own independence while they're trying to figure out theirs. And I really do think that you could offer them something very secure. But, this may be just a little bit too quick here because they're still needing to work on moving on. Now, they may be doing that though. So with the Two of Swords here, for you, it's like, well, I don't really know. Are they going to do something about this? Are they still interested? Do they want to have this relationship? Because clearly they're not seeing the good thing that's like right in front of them because they're still dealing with some bullshit, And that may be where you're kind of like with the Two of Swords, like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I need to end this, right? But I think that not only do you want security and stability, but I also think that you could offer this, but they're not accepting it. Now, them showing the Eight of Cups, especially after the Tower and the Eight of Wands, this may be them finally moving on from what has not been fulfilling for them. This thing that's been built up in their life that is coming down and collapsing here, and maybe they're done now. Maybe they're done investing in that because you're showing hope being restored with this, right? But we're also talking about you. I think that there is a part of you that's very giving in terms of not only being able to kind of help them and create security, but you're wanting to help heal them though too. I really feel like that. But with the Nine of Pentacles and then looking at the World, this is really about you remaining independent from what they are dealing with because they need to close this out in a way where they get to move on without any attachments. But the both of you are hanging on to this relationship. Neither one of you are letting go. They just have some serious issues that they got to work out here. And with that Five of Swords, man, I feel both. I feel like that's what they're dealing with. But I also think that this is what they don't want to do to you, which is why there isn't this immediate accepting of this offer. But this is nothing new to you with them. I think... First of all, I think with the Emperor and then looking at the Ten of Wands, it's great and all that you're dealing with somebody that's full of passion, but are they willing to take the relationship anywhere? Because the Ten of Wands is going to be about, having that kind of hookup that releases that burden, releases the pressure, but nothing happens after that. All right, so you may be dealing with somebody who's just, acting toward their passion or passion driven. Now, when you look at the Queen of Wands, I think that for a lot of you, you're still like, and this is either going to be you or the other person, but somebody is still trying to show that they're available, but there's no connection. There just is no connection physically or mentally. And I also think that there hasn't been communication for a while. So, it may be one of those things where you're dealing with somebody that wants to be available, but maybe they can't be. And that could be where children are involved. Now, With the Eight of Swords here, you're talking about being put in a position where you're not comfortable. You're not comfortable with being involved in a relationship that is just based on lust. You know, I mean, especially with the Emperor coming in and then looking at, you know, the devil in the background there. But the thing is with the Queen of Cups, there's love there. Okay, because you're talking about romance, somebody who's got some feelings here. They want to be available, but I don't know if they can be. But at some point in the past, though, you had like this connection, but it didn't go anywhere after that. You know, and again, it may have been just physical, but you may be dealing with somebody that still has a lot of emotions for you, or that's you having a lot of emotions for somebody else, but you don't want it to just be that. You want it to be something else, or they do. And then the Five of Cups, and I have to wonder if this isn't somebody that may be apologizing for the fact that they didn't make themselves available, or they didn't give you the attention that you needed. But I also think that you're not wanting to play games with this person anymore, and you may be focused somewhere else in your life, at least in the present moment. So they may be looking like, you know, I'm still here, I still want, but for you, you don't have time for that. You just don't have time for that anymore, especially if you feel like the relationship was based on this whole feeling of somebody just got what they wanted, because the Knight of Swords is conquering. It's another notch in the belt, and that's all that is, right? I got a piece of that, and that's it. And clearly it didn't go anywhere. But somebody is still wanting to be available to this. They don't know that they can, though. But there isn't that kind of a connection. And I think that the Eight of Pentacles is you. Like, I can't put my focus and attention into this. You know, it was what it was, and that's it. You may have other things that you need to focus on. That or the reason why this person can't, you know, follow through, so to speak, is because they have, you know, issues with children, things like that. But the Five of Cups would suggest that, you know, this person may be trying to apologize to you because they want it to be more. They may not feel comfortable with the way things went, and they may be trying to change that. Now, with the King of Wands and the Two of Cups, I think a lot of you are in a really good relationship. I think that things are really good. I think that there's a lot of warmth, a lot of understanding. You're having fun. It's like you're getting to know each other all over again. For a lot of you, the way the relationship starts looks really good. The King of Wands, whether you're dealing with fire, male, female, doesn't matter to me, but I look at that as somebody who is passionate and a little bit loving, you know? Like they like to have that like physical connection with you, you know? And there's that connection, that relationship with the Two of Cups, you know, and the sharing of emotions, you know, you're knowing each other, you're flirting with each other, and with the Four of Wands, you're having all kinds of fun. And there's still this warmth and love. It continues, you know, but I think that you're dealing with somebody who genuinely wants to know you. And they want to say, I know my partner. And with the Seven of Cups, I just think that that is kind of like, you know, the whole fantasizing about the relationship and where it can go, and there's this underlying issue that may be happening. Okay, now, like I said, I don't think that you're dealing with somebody who is cheating, okay? I'm not seeing that here. I would need more for that. But I think that at some point things may have been really happy, but when you're looking at the Ten of Cups, you're talking about somebody who thinks everything's okay, but the other person doesn't feel that way, okay? And that may be where, you know, there needs to be a little bit more communication, but I think that things are going to be lighthearted between the two of you. But this, like, I need to understand why you weren't, you know, fully happy with this relationship, or why you may have been looking at other things, right? Now, I don't necessarily feel like we're talking about somebody who followed through on other options, but with the Page of Pentacles coming out, I think that if you're trying to restore chemistry, you're going to have to get over any kind of feelings of bitterness, because they may have been not exactly happy and may have been questioning the relationship. They may have been looking at other things, but I don't think that there's follow through. You know, I really think that when we're looking at the Four of Wands here with the Two of Wands, I don't think we're talking about your partner meeting somebody else or you doing this and having fun outside of the relationship. I don't think that that's it. But I think that something needs to be addressed in terms of, well, what do you want? If you question it before and you weren't really happy, then why is it that, you know, you were tempted somewhere else? It's like needing to figure that out, needing to understand, right? But like I said, I do think that, you know, whatever is playing out in your mind in terms of your partner, if they're showing you that they love you and that they care about you, don't sit there and play out these scenarios in your mind where you think that they're living out a fantasy somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, don't play that shit out in your mind and get rid of that, because otherwise, you know, that bitterness is going to continue to like cause problems with the relationship. I hope that that made sense. But I think that you're just dealing with somebody that, you know, is really attractive, right? They may attract attention. They may have people that want to get to know them, but I think that they want to be involved with you, seriously. You know, but don't hold on to any kind of bitterness. Wow, Pisces. All right. You guys will have to let me know. And like I always say, they're general messages, right? If you're happy in your relationship, a lot of times you don't need a message, right? Go be happy. Enjoy that. But that may be, you know, for somebody who's in a relationship right now where they may be worried about, you know, whether or not their partner still wants them, right?